Chapter 7. Every eye in the room looked at the two of you. One pair stared with gloom. He just couldn't believe it was true. Jenny stood by her locker, packing her things. Her history book, pencil case and English book. Do I need anything else? She quietly asked herself. Agneta's voice interrupted her thoughts. Jenny, where are you? Here? She stood on tiptoe to look over the opened locker door. Guess who's in the cafeteria? She frowned slightly. How am I supposed to know that? Well, Mr. Handsome is here. She looked at Agneta without really understanding. It's a hottie? Here? Surely you couldn't be here. Are you certain it's him? I mean, come on. You think anyone can forget how he looks? Go talk to him. Jenny couldn't move. Her stomach felt all fizzy. After a moment, she managed to overcome the paralysis and followed her friend with slow, nervous steps. When they arrived, she stopped in the doorway. Her stomach was no longer fizzy, it was turning around like a tumble dryer. It was him, all right. He sat on a table with around 10 people looking carefully at what he was doing. With a smooth movement, he spread his playing cards in his hand, so they formed a fan. Now you know, I didn't see which one you choose, right? So let's see if I can find it. With closed eyes, he let his fingers slide over the cards. Suddenly, he grabbed one of them and turned it towards his audience. Was this the card you picked? From the reactions, Jenny could see that it was. Cecilia was standing close to him. Apparently, she had chosen the card. When Jenny saw him there, the center of attention, she suddenly felt uncertain. Maybe he hadn't come to see her. Maybe he just had a job in Gothenburg. Maybe he had just happened to end up in this school. Maybe... There you are! With an effortless jump, he got down from the table and walked towards her with long, rapid steps. He put his hands on her hips and gave her a quick kiss. How's my fairy? She could feel all the staring eyes in the room, but she didn't see them. That's why she didn't see Kevan's surprised, wounded look when he saw her confused, enamored face. Come on, let's go. Mr. Handsome took her hand and they walked out to the cafeteria. Do you want to go to Marstrand? The weather is great and I've borrowed a car. He strode through the corridors. She tried to keep up, tried to get used to him being here and wanted to go to Marstrand with her. Now, just like that. When he stopped and looked at her with lifted eyebrows, she answered him, Yes, of course I'd love to. As they drove through the beautiful summer landscape along the Göta River, she tried out the various buttons on the dashboard. He smiled at her curious, almost childlike ways. He was glad he had decided to stay in Gothenburg for a while. You know what? I still don't know your name. What do you think my name is, Jenny? She became completely silent. No clue. How come you know my name when I haven't asked you about yours? He recalled that he had seen her name on a driver's license when he had taken their jackets from the cloakroom. You probably told me when you were drunk, he teased. She moaned. Then I guess I told you how I got the name as well. My parents' favorite song and all that. He shook his head. No, but I'd like to know. It's from Lasse Berghagen's hit in the 70s, Jenny Jenny. That was the first song my parents danced to, so they named me Jenny, but I spell it with a Y instead of I-E. He smiled. It's a good song. Yeah, I guess it is. What could his name be? Mikael? He shook his head. No, I guess not. Mikael sounds too kind. Mats? What do you mean, sounds too kind? Peter? Yes. Is it Peter? Of course it's Peter. She seemed pleased with the name and changed the radio station. When she found one that played Shakira's Whenever, Wherever, she turned up the volume and sang along. Yeah, now I remember. You said you were in a band. Jenny nodded and continued singing. Do you have any gigs coming up soon? On Friday, at the end of term party. Great, then I can hear you play. They had arrived in Kungälv and Peter left the highway and turned on to the considerably narrower and curvier Marstrandsvägen. After parking the car and then taking the ferry over to the island, they strolled hand in hand and talked about everything and nothing. She had not had to worry about their meeting becoming an anticlimax. It was easy to talk to him, just as easy as it had been in Stockholm. They could even walk next to each other in silence without feeling awkward. Along the dock there were many boats and people moving about. even though it was a work day and the tourist season had barely begun. When they walked along the cobbled roads, she looked at the clothes in the small boutiques between the cafes and picturesque residential buildings. That's when she saw it, the dress suit with a capital D. It looked wonderful and would be perfect for the end of school celebration. It had a double-breasted jacket and a bell-shaped skirt in a beautiful greenish-blue color. Do you want that one? He had followed her gaze. Yes, but I'm sure it's too expensive for me. We can always try it on. Let's go. We? Hesitantly, she followed him into the shop. How can I help you? The shop assistant was elegant and had the longest nails Jenny had ever seen. Thanks, but we're just looking. She wanted to leave. The lady in the shop made her feel awkward. We would love to try on the dress suit you have in the window. Peter smiled toward the nail lady. Of course, what size? They both looked at Jenny, who suddenly felt chubby and just wanted to ask what the price was. I don't really know, 38 or 40 or 42, if it's a model that's tight over the butt. For some ridiculous reason, she didn't want to say that out loud. She didn't want Peter to know that she sometimes needed that size. Did guys know women's sizes anyway? 38 or 40, let's see. The shop assistant went away with short, ladylike steps. When she was out of earshot, Jenny pulled Peter's sleeve and whispered, I can't afford this. You like it, don't you? Yeah, but all right then. Here we are. One in size 38, one in size 40. The fitting room is over there. As soon as Jenny was in the fitting room, she frantically looked for a price tag, but she couldn't find one. That's so typical in these damn expensive boutiques. Her bad mood disappeared as soon as she saw herself in the dress. It was as if they had made it just for her. The color highlighted her green eyes and made her skin look healthy. She turned her back to the mirror and peeked over her shoulder. Even my butt looks good in it. Maybe I can get a top in size 38 and the skirt in size 40. The second after that thought shot through her head, she remembered that she would not be able to afford it anyway. She sighed deeply. I'll just have to tell them I don't like it, or that it doesn't fit. She looked one more time at herself in the mirror. She wanted to remember how good she could look. The curtain behind her rustled. See, it fits you perfectly. Peter was leaning against the wall, looking at her unabashedly. Didn't it occur to you that I might want to be alone in here? Her angry tone didn't wipe away the smile from his face. It occurred to me that you would say it didn't fit, so I wouldn't buy it for you. What do you mean, buy it for me? You told me you can't afford it. That doesn't mean you're going to buy me anything. Why not? If I want something, I get it myself. Oh, every man by himself, you mean? Woman, but yeah. And is every man for himself, not by. Jenny, you want that dress, get it. I'm not Julia Roberts in Pretty Woman. I can't accept gifts from you. I mean, I hardly know you. You know I'm a model, and that I have more than enough money. What else do you need to know? Never mind, I'm just going to go ahead and buy it. Then I hope you'll take it, because, it'll look kind of awful on me. She touched the soft fabric in slow strokes. One day I'll pay him back. As soon as I make some money, I'll pay him back. It wasn't possible to stay angry with Peter, not for long. Many hours later, when she was sleeping in the car on the way back to Gothenburg, she was happy, even blissful. She had a bag with a dress on her lap, and her head was filled with new, lovely memories. When they had walked along the quay to Societetshuset, they had met friends of Peter's, friends he had known since he was a kid, and he and his father had sailed with them and their families. The friends had invited them on their motorboat, and Jenny had sat with Peter's arm around her waist, enjoying the water, the smells, the evening. When he dropped her off outside the yellow townhouse on Bokbindergatan, it was close to midnight. Peter was in his borrowed apartment at 12:30 and started reading his Baldacci book. About the same time, Jenny turned off the light and pulled up the quilt to her neck. The alarm would go off at 7:15. Just when she was falling asleep, she jolted awake and turned on the light again. Shit, shit, shit. She threw the duvet to one side, got up and went straight to her school bag. From it, she retrieved her history book and sat down at her desk. With a highlighter in her right hand, she turned to page 213. In 1800, there were only 2 kingdoms in the Nordic countries, Denmark, Norway, and Sweden, Finland.